some of the prelim fights and then also the main card, because I don't know if Gastelum versus Curtis was on the prelims or the main card. I don't remember. But it was pretty early in the fights, so I'm assuming it was either late in the prelims or very early on the main card. But that was probably my favorite fight of the night. I mean, I think it got fight of the night, I'm pretty sure. But, oh my gosh. I told you guys, Kelvin Gastelum brings it. Like, he always brings it. He's such a good fighter. So good. I'm so happy for him. That was probably the happiest, like, reaction that I had watching the fights, was seeing Kelvin Gastelum not only win, but, like, the way that he won. He put it all out there. Like, you could tell he was so hungry to get that win. And, I mean, jeez. I've never seen a guy be able to take a punch like Gastelum. He has an iron chin. It's insanity. But anyways, he did a phenomenal job. Honestly, I think that was my favorite performance of the night, just because it showed that not only is he very good offensively, but also that he has heart, he's tough, he has a chin, and we know those things about him. But when you start losing, multiple fights in a row, people start to forget about that, and they start to doubt you, and they forget, who you really are, who Gastelum is. He's a freaking boss. Like, he is so good. So I was really happy to see that he got the win. Man, that makes me just, oh my gosh. I love watching fighters that, like, you follow their whole journey. Like, I remember him on The Ultimate Fighter, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm a bail bondsman. And that's what he did for a living, and then he became a fighter. And to see just his rise and his fight with Izzy, and it's just, what an insane story. Like, he's going to look back on that when he's older and be like, holy crap, I lived a really cool life. Like, I really did some amazing things. So props to Kelvin Gastelum. That was amazing. And then let me see what other fights I want to talk about. Oh, I was wrong about one of the fights that I predicted. I was wrong about Rosas Jr. Yeah, he lost pretty bad. And that's that's something I didn't think about. He's 18 years old. I believe he's 18. And that's not a lot of experience. I mean, I know people start training young, but I can't imagine he's been sparring that long. I would hope not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I'm talking about like MMA sparring, like real, like you're basically in a fight sparring, which is like how a lot of people spar. But there's no way that he's been doing it long enough to have the level of experience to go in there with somebody who is on that level of experience. So I think he just wasn't quite ready yet. And I didn't really think about that. I'm like, oh, he's 18. Maybe he's just very, very talented for his age. But then another thing I didn't think about was just like how your body and your brain develops. And I'm like, maybe it's not really a good thing to put an 18-year-old in the UFC right away. Or at least maybe try to build him up a little bit more. I don't know. Being on the main card of one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year in your second UFC fight is pretty insane. I mean, if Kelvin Gastelum was on the prelims and you're on the main card and you're 18, it's like, what? It doesn't make any sense. And I was actually really surprised to see that he was on the main card, but I know he was because he's, right now he's got all the hype. But the hype train was derailed for sure. So I hope that he comes back from it and isn't like discouraged from it, or I hope that it doesn't negatively affect his career too much, because I think he is very talented, but maybe just needs more experience. And the best way to get that experience is probably going to like a Bellator or LFA or something like that. I think would probably have been a better route for him to go, honestly. So he could build up his resume a little bit more. And I don't know. I hate seeing kids. He is basically a kid, in my opinion. I hate seeing them lose like that so early. You know, it's just like the Chase Hooper thing. I mean, he could have had an incredible career, but it seems like they kind of rushed it, or they just gave him horrible matchups. So I don't know. I don't believe in the whole test them thing, because it's like they're young. They need experience. You need the experience in the octagon. You need that experience. And if they don't get it and then you rush their career, then you're not going to get the good results. And that's what I feel like they're not going to do that with Bo Nickel, which I'm happy about. And I think it's because Bo is pretty smart. So I don't know if maybe it's like these fighters' management teams that are the issue, or if it's Dana, or if it's the matchmakers, or if it's them. I don't know who is, is to blame for some of this stuff. But I feel like, yeah, we need to build up these fighters more, give them a chance to, learn from little mistakes. Because sometimes if you learn from a mistake and the stakes aren't too high, and you mess up, then it's not as bad as when the stakes are super high. There's so much pressure. You're on a main card. That's just a lot for an 18-year-old. I don't know. So, and I did not think about any of this before the fight. I thought about this afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of not a good idea. But anyways, so I was wrong about that one, but I was really hoping he would win. That kind of sucks. He seems like he's really dedicated, so it's always hate to see that. But then, Rob Font. I was definitely right about Rob Font. I told you guys, never sleep on Rob Font. Never sleep on Rob Font. I'm telling you guys, Rob Font has the best boxing in the division in bantamweight. I'm telling you. At least in my opinion. But his jab alone, he could probably win a fight just with his jab. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I love watching good boxing. I love watching really good wrestling, and I love watching really good boxing. I think those are my two favorite forms of martial arts, is wrestling and boxing. And I feel like when you combine those together, it makes for a really great fighter. Like, I'm trying to think of somebody who has good wrestling and good boxing. I guess maybe like a Dustin Poirier kind of. I don't know. A Justin Gaethje, but he doesn't really use his wrestling that much. But yeah, like good wrestling and boxing, I feel like creates an insanely good foundation. And it's pretty it's a pretty simplistic style compared to when you're getting really technical with jiu-jitsu and really technical with Muay Thai and those styles. It's a little bit more simplistic in, I guess, the strategy of it. Like with jiu-jitsu, you have to set up all those submissions. You have to make sure you're in a good position to even go for a certain submission. So there's a lot more variables in it, but I feel like boxing and wrestling really allow you to just control the fight. But anyways, so Rob Font, oh my God, he is so good. So talented. I was so happy to see him win, especially getting a first round knockout. Like, I love it. I love it. That jab, man, crispy. The crispiest jab in the UFC. Man. Yeah, he's got to be like top 5 boxers in the UFC right now. Active fighters. My gosh. Just clean combinations, good footwork. Man, he's amazing. I also love to see fighters win that like aren't big trash talkers. 'Cause it's like they didn't get those fights by talking a bunch of trash. They got those fights because they earned those fights. So I think that's really cool. But anyways, so let's see. What other fights do we need to talk about? There were so many good fights. I can't even like pick which ones were my favorite. I mean, the co-main, but I feel like, wasn't there another fight? I feel like I'm forgetting about a fight right now. Let me look at the fight card. I can't believe I forgot. I just watched this last night. But I feel like I'm forgetting about a fight, and then after this podcast, if I don't look it up, then I'm going to be like, oh, I forgot to talk about this fight. Kevin Holland. That's the one I was forgetting. Oh my God. I love Kevin Holland so much. I love him. First of all, he's an amazing fighter, but he's also his personality. Like, his personality is amazing. Like, I listened to his episode on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he is so funny and just like such a real person. And I feel like he's just a character. I don't know. I love people like that, but he stays busy too. Like, there's nobody else that fights as much as he's always game. He will just keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And he's so good. But yeah, that was a great performance by him too. I just love watching these fighters evolve, and, you know, they change weight classes. Like, now he's at 170, and I've always wanted to really see him make a run at 170. So I'm excited to see who he fights next. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the division too much to see like who I think he should match up with next, but he should definitely get a big opponent next, I think. Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. That would be fun. Him versus Colby. That would be fun. I mean, it would probably be a horrible matchup for Holland, honestly, but the trash talk would be fire. It would be fire. But I guess Colby's going to be fighting Leon, because Dana seems really set on Leon and Colby fighting. And I like that fight. I think Colby deserves it. But also I'm kind of like, why is he so adamant about it? Like, there's just something fishy about it to me for some reason. I don't know. There's probably something going on that we don't know about. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird the way that Dana's like, yeah, we need this fight to happen. It's going to be Colby. It's nobody else. And it's like, okay, got it. Got it. I think Burns would be a good choice, though. Man. Burns deserves the title shot, probably more than anyone, after that fight. But before that fight, I would still say Colby deserved it more. And the fact that anybody thought Jorge would be getting the title shot is just kind of confusing to me. So I don't understand that whole argument. Let's talk about that fight. So Burns versus Masvidal. Oh my gosh. Gilbert Burns is so good. He's so good. Like, towards the end of the fight, he was beating Masvidal on the feet. I think Burns is getting better and better. It's just that he's had some really difficult matchups. Like, if you think about it, he's had Usman, Hamzat. I mean, the guy is really good. But yeah, you put him up against the best in the world, then he's not going to win every single time. But I think he's getting better. I think he keeps improving on different things. Like, I feel like that fight was the best fight IQ I've seen from him, and also the best striking I've seen from him. So, but it also depends on who you're matched up with. So that's what they say, styles make fights. But I was really impressed with him. I thought he was going to use more grappling than he did, but it seemed like it was pretty easy for him to get Masvidal to the ground. So that didn't seem like too much of a challenge for him. And Masvidal has pretty good, not the best, but pretty good takedown defense. I mean, Usman got him down, obviously, in that fight when he did like all the foot stomps, the first fight. But he didn't really do anything to him on the ground. Like, he didn't do any ground and pound really that much. And he didn't really try to submit him. He just kind of held him on the ground for the most part. But yeah, that sucks though. I really like Masvidal. He's such a character. You gotta love him. The King of Miami. It sucks. I think he said he's retiring, I guess. Or I think he said that. I don't know. And he said that going into the fight. And when I saw him say that, I knew that Burns is probably going to win. I'm like, if you're already going into the fight thinking that you're going to retire if you lose the fight, it just seems like you don't really maybe have that self-belief anymore. But he's not that young. He's like, I think 37 or 38 or something like that. Like he's not young. So it makes sense for him to retire. And I think that he's the type of guy who he has such a personality and he's such a character that I don't think he's going to have any problems making money outside of the UFC. I mean, he probably is already. I don't really know much about what he does business wise, to be honest. I thought he had like a tequila or something at some point. But I think he's the type of guy that he grinds, and I think he'll be a lot happier when he's out of fighting and focusing on other things. Maybe he has other passions that he can pour his energy into the same way that he did with fighting, except for you're not putting your body through all that abuse. So I think it's really exciting and heartbreaking at the same time for Masvidal. But man, great win for Burns. That's really exciting. It shakes up the division too, because Burns was coming off a loss and now he's up. So it makes things exciting, and it makes a title fight with Leon, or if possibly Colby beats Leon, then Colby versus Burns. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see. We will see. I'm excited to see what happens in the division. And then the main event. Adesanya. I knew in my heart Adesanya was going to win the fight. I knew in my heart for some reason, because at first I was like, oh, Alex will probably win because he's already beat him 3 times. That was kind of what I was thinking. And I'm like, no, he's Adesanya. He's the freaking style bender. He is not losing this fight. I'm like, there's no way he is going to let Alex Pereira beat him. He's not. I knew there was no way that he's going to let him do that. And there was no logic behind my reasoning for why I picked Adesanya. But I just knew in my heart, I'm like, he's the type of guy who, if he loses to somebody, I think he's going to avenge that loss. And in a way, kind of reminds me of GSP, because GSP avenged all of his losses. And I think that is the kind of champion that Adesanya strives to be. So I think that's why he's so humble when he is defeated. Because like, remember when he lost to Jan, he was pretty chill about it. Like I was expecting him to like, you know, be like whining and crying about it, but he was pretty chill about it. And I don't know. And then with Alex, like he was pretty chill about that loss too. So I feel like it's because he knows he can go back to the lab, work on whatever he messed up, fix his mistakes, and then go back and win. I think he knows he has the ability to do that. So he knows he can avenge these losses. And I think he'll probably avenge his loss to Jan. And I think, honestly, that fight makes sense to me. I don't really have any desire to see him fight Robert Whittaker again, although I love Robert Whittaker. I think there's probably other people that Whittaker could fight. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of who he would even fight. Like who, maybe Hamzat, but I just don't think Hamzat deserves a title shot at 185 yet. Like I think he needs to beat somebody else. I don't know. Maybe he could get a title shot, because there's really not a whole lot of people that would make sense. That's the thing. I want to see Robert Whittaker versus Hamzat, actually, to test Hamzat and make sure he's ready for the title. Because also, like with grappling, I don't know what Adesanya's grappling is going to be like against Hamzat. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Stand up, I would say Adesanya wins 10 out of 10 times. But in the grappling, I mean, Hamzat is a very dominant grappler. So, but we'll see. I don't know. He's Adesanya. That guy just keeps getting better and better and better. He really does. And the thing is like everybody always doubts him Like, he doesn't have the same kind of power as Pereira. Even I kind of did a little bit. But his timing is what makes the difference. His timing is insanely good. So, good fight. It was a good fight, too. That's the best. Like, yeah, it was cool that John Jones submitted Gane, the first round or whatever. But when they actually have a fight, and then they get knocked out, and then they get submitted, those are the best fights. Because you're just not expecting it. Like, whenever John Jones got Gane to the ground, we were like, okay, this is over. But these fights were like, there's so many different exchanges and sprawls and grappling and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, some crazy thing happens, like with the Adesanya fight. And they just get knocked out or they get submitted. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is why I love watching this sport. I love it. Those are some of the best fights I've seen in a while. I'm going to say that was the best card so far this year, in my opinion. I thought it was amazing. And also, I feel like a lot more underdogs won than usual, which is nice. And I predicted a lot of them correctly. The only one I didn't predict right was Rosas Jr., but that's okay. So I feel like I've redeemed myself now from the John Jones incident. I picked Cyril Gane to beat John Jones, and now I was right about Adesanya, so you guys can all shut it. Anyways, let's talk about NF's new album because, oh my gosh, this guy never ceases to amaze me. His music, really, it's not like just listening to music. Like, I think that's what people don't understand about my obsession with music is that, like, I don't just listen to it just to have something playing in the background or to have something. I listen to the story they're telling. That's what I listen to. I love it. And NF is such a good storyteller. So for those of you who don't know who NF is, he's a rapper, but he's very interesting because he's like a Christian rapper or whatever. But he doesn't curse in any of his music. And he's just so unique. He's very, very similar style to Eminem. But it's very different in the way that like his rap is clean and he does a lot of like motivational type stuff. That's how I would call it. Let me find his lyrics because I wanted to go through some of his lyrics. Okay. Actually, let me pull up the album. I was going to print all this out, but my printer was acting stupid. And I know that sounds stupid to print this stuff out, but the reason I print it out is because I don't like to be on my phone when I'm doing my podcast. So I turn it on Do Not Disturb, but I still get distracted just like looking at my phone in general. So, because I have ADHD, so I would rather not be on my phone while I'm doing my podcast, but my printer was acting a fool. Okay. So let's look at the song titles. So the first song, Hope, I've already gone over that one. That one I think is still my favorite on the album. And then he has the song Motto, which that one he dropped like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago. That one was a banger. And then Careful. Ooh. That might be my second favorite. Hope is my favorite song from the album. Careful, that's probably my second favorite. So that song's featuring Corday, which if you don't know who Corday is, check it out. Oh my gosh. I'm going to pull up the lyrics. Pulling up the lyrics. Okay, so here is the lyrics. Doesn't go plat, it'll go gold. I love that part. That's so clever. Keep it up front, I don't tiptoe. Oh yeah, sit on my roof like J. Cole. I love that. That's... He's just basically talking like, hey, I do this. My crib is exotic. I'm blessed. I'm just looking at the lyrics right now to see. There was a couple lyrics in this song that kind of stood out to me. But yeah, this is kind of a flex song, which I love. I love when people flex. I think sometimes it's good to flex. Sometimes it's like, yeah, I earned it. Like, I worked my butt off to get here. So yeah, maybe I want to flex it a little bit. I love that. But I'm the type of person where, like, I try to give good energy to people. So, like, if somebody is trying to make a name for themselves, or somebody is, like, maybe they just started creating content and they're, you know, trying to build their brand, whatever they're trying to do, and they're putting themselves out there, I'll always try to take an opportunity to appreciate that and to encourage that person if I can, because I know what it feels like to be there. And especially when everybody's like telling you you're crazy, or, oh, this is cringe, or what are you doing? Who do you think you are? And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I like to spread good energy, not negative energy. And that's like a lot of kind of thing that NF talks about, is like just kind of being positive and not being so negative. But yeah, that was a great song. But I think the song that I wanted to really talk about was Suffice. So let me find that one. The lyrics. Suffice was such a good song. That's definitely my number 3. So Hope is my number 1 song. How did I already forget the name? Careful. That's the number 2. And then number 3 is Suffice. The first 2 lyrics. Yeah, if I did it, then I did it right. This ain't happened for me overnight. So he's already like setting the tone, like, hey, I've been working my butt off. And he's like, bet against me, you gonna pay the price. That's right. Down to business. I ain't playing nice. See, he is just, man, his flow is so ridiculous. Huh. I haven't really read the lyrics yet. I've just listened to the songs. So I'm processing this right now. When you poppin', they all want a slice. Ain't that the truth? It's like nobody cares. Like sometimes I don't know, I think about that. Like nobody cares whenever you don't have X amount of followers, or you don't have X amount of views. Like people don't care. Well, the real ones care, but you know, the general public, like they don't care. But then when they see you have all the followers, or they see you have money or whatever it is, then they're like, oh, Bree, what's up? And it's like, I'm sorry. Didn't you act like I didn't exist 6 months ago? Like, where did you come from? From the woodwork. That's where you came from. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of what he's talking about, and I get that. And I'm not anywhere near successful as him, but like when I opened my insurance agency, like I noticed there were some people that were trying to, you know, rub elbows with me and talk to me that had never talked to me before, and all of a sudden once I opened the agency, all of a sudden they want to be my best friend. I'm like, where you been? Where you been? So for me, it's like, if I see somebody doing something and I think they're doing well at it, and I think that they're talented, or I think that they're on to something, that's the people, like, I would rather kind of like support, encourage, whatever, people who maybe they're not there yet, but they have so much potential. Because when somebody is doing something really cool, like let's say I know somebody that is starting a podcast. I'll just use that as an example because I'm doing my podcast right now, and that's what I'm thinking about. But let's say I meet somebody, like maybe they're my friend or an acquaintance or whatever, and they're starting a podcast, and they haven't even started yet. Or maybe they have a couple episodes, and I listen to it, or if I know the person and I know their personality and think, oh, they're going to be great at that, I want to encourage them. Because if I encourage them and if I tell them like, you can do this, they're going to go do it most likely. But if they don't hear that, sometimes people never take that step. So that's why I think it's so important. Like if you see somebody doing something and you think they have potential, go tell them. Tell them, hey, I think you could be really good at this. You should put more time into this. You should try to get better at this. You should try to get more technical at this. And I feel like that's the kind of thing I'm doing right now. Like I'm trying to figure out like, you know, how to, because I do everything myself. I do all the audio myself, the video, I do all the stuff myself, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I try to figure it out. I try to teach myself new things every single day so I can get better and better and better. But I would not do that if I didn't have people in my life that told me, hey, this is good. You know, you should keep doing this. We believe in you. If I didn't have people like that, it would be really hard to get motivated to spend the time to do it. Because you have more people that don't think you should do it than that do think you should do it a lot of times. And the people that don't think you should do it are going to try to get you to stop doing it at all costs. They're going to be like, oh, well, you know, that's a waste of time, or, you know, you're not making any money from that, so why are you putting so much time into it or whatever? And a lot of people just don't understand delayed gratification. But my point is, if you see somebody doing something, pursuing their dream, or just maybe they're dabbling in something, but they happen to be really like have a knack for it right away, tell them. Don't be fake about it. Like, don't tell people when you know it's not true. Like, don't be just capping all day long. But go up to people and lift them up, encourage people, and it'll come back to you. That's what I've noticed. Like every single day I try to motivate at least one person. That's always my goal. And even if that person is me, that's fine. But most of the time it's somebody else, somebody that is maybe struggling. Maybe they're not struggling. Maybe they're happy, but they don't know that they could be happier and they could be doing something fulfilling. So I think it's important to just lift people up, be positive, send good energy. There is too much negative energy in this world, and the more positivity that you can spread and the nicer and more respectful that you can be to people. And I'm not saying to be fake, because you should never be fake. But you should be genuine, and also in a positive way though. Like there are people that are like, well, I'm just really blunt, or like, well, I don't know. There's some things that people say like that are really, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Say, for example, somebody is always like critiquing me and I'm not asking for it. And then when I'm like, hey, why don't you ever say anything positive? Then their response is like, oh, I'm just really blunt and I just like to be honest with people. And it's like, you can be honest in good ways. Like, just like being honest doesn't always mean being negative. And I appreciate when people give advice and when people give criticism when it's asked for, or if they are in a position where they are an expert at what they're talking about. But there are way too many people out here giving advice that have no business giving advice. People that give advice about money that they don't know the first thing about money. That's why I don't give advice about money. I don't know what I'm doing. I talk about things I know about. I don't talk about things I don't know about. So if I was on here telling you guys how to get rich, then I would hope you would turn this off, because I don't know how to do it yet. Once I figure it out, maybe I'll tell you about it, but I'm not there yet. So I talk about things I know, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in any of these things compared to, like I'm not a Laura Senko with MMA, but I do know a lot of MMA, and I do know a lot about fitness. I have my personal training certification, and I know a lot about music. I'm a musician myself. And so I feel like sometimes, people, they know like a couple things about something, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna give advice about this. And it's usually a situation where, you know, maybe you are, I don't know, maybe you're a newer musician. Like, this is something I experienced when I first started being a musician, was and not that I'm like a professional or anything, but you know, I'm working on it right now. I'm working on my music. But when I first started, I'm gonna say it was like 7 years ago ish that I started playing guitar, and there was just a lot of people that were trying to like critique me and give me advice about it, that I would listen to their music and I was like, this is garbage. So I was like, wait, why are you giving me advice about music? Your music is terrible. So it's like, I just don't like that. I don't like when people give advice about stuff that they don't even know anything about. Like, if you are good at it and you have had some success in it, then it's like, okay, cool. Go ahead and give your advice, but don't just be... I think people just like to hear themselves talk, honestly. I mean, I like to hear myself talk. That's why I have a podcast. Maybe start a podcast and talk about it like that. Don't just give people advice and act like you're an expert. See, that's the thing. It's all about positioning. Like, if you position yourself as an expert, then you better be a freaking expert on it. But if you position yourself as like you're just talking about it and conversating about it, then it's fine. So, and like a lot of times too with fitness, even though I'm a personal trainer and I'm certified, I still try to hammer the point that don't necessarily listen to every single thing I say, because we're all different and we're all on our own journey with fitness. My body is not your body. So I could give you all the advice in the world, but you still might need to go and kind of figure out some things for yourself. So I don't know. I'm just ranting now, but I just thought that was necessary to say, because it just bothers me sometimes, because I've taken so much bad advice in my life, and I feel like if I would have just listened to my gut or listened to people who were actually doing what I wanted to do, would have been a lot better off. So that's why now the only people that I talk to, and I appreciate everybody that messages me and comments and all that stuff, but I only really listen to advice from people who are doing better than me, like a lot better than me. People who are where I want to be. With whether it's YouTube, podcast, music, any of it. I look to people who are like, I want to be doing what they're doing. Or I want to be not necessarily like doing exactly what they're doing, but on that level or whatever it is. So that's who I like to take advice from. Oh, but anyways, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other songs on that album that I wanted to talk about. It was so good. I'm going to listen to it over and over again. If you need good gym music, listen to NF's new album. That is the best gym music, especially for like boxing and stuff like that. Just like anytime you want to feel motivated, listen to NF. Man, I was jamming to that album in the gym. I think I played the song Careful like 15 times while I was at the gym. Oh, man. Speaking of the gym, I've been going to the outdoor gym lately, and I love it. It's so nice to work out outside. Such a good vibe. And I've been boxing a lot more. Like, I've been hitting the bag. So I'm really going to work on my boxing. I'm going to try to get good at it, I think. I know I'm okay, but like, I'm not that good. I know I'm not that good. Like, I know I'm better than like the average person, but when you're talking about people who actually regularly train, I'm like, yeah, I'm not that good, but I'm going to get there. I'm determined. I'm going to work. That's like my focus right now. I'm working on my boxing and I'm working on my music, because I really want to improve like those two things. Like, I feel like I've gotten my fitness and my like strength training and that kind of stuff to a point where I feel pretty confident in my skills there. And then also with nutrition, I feel like I have my nutrition dialed in. So I'm excited to kind of just like work on different things and more creative outlets for me. Cause like, even though boxing is a sport, it's very creative to me, cause it's almost like a dance. And sometimes I'll just like kind of try to come up with new combinations, or I don't know. It's just fun. And then music, of course, is my favorite thing to do ever. I could literally play music all day long. I love it so much. But I don't share a lot of it because it's like I'm such a perfectionist with it. Like, it has to sound perfect. And most of the time it doesn't. So most of the time I just post stuff anyways because I'm like, it's not going to get perfect unless I spend 15 hours working on it. And I don't have time for that. So a lot of times when I post my music, I'm like, I post it and then I just don't even want to know what people think about it. I'm like, don't even tell me. I'm like, I hate it already. Like, as soon as I post it, I listen to it. I'm like, this is trash. But this weekend, yesterday, I recorded like a session of me playing for like an hour and I posted some clips of it. And now I'm listening to it and I actually like it. This is like the first time I've listened to something I've recorded afterwards and thought it was good. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to post my cover of White House Road by Tyler Childers on YouTube. I'm going to start working on that tonight and I'm going to post that hopefully within the next couple days. But I'm so excited. I feel like just full of energy and joy. Man, I feel good. And I love playing music. It really feeds my soul. So I'm excited to start sharing more of that with you guys. Like I'm working on some of my own music. Like, I'm writing my own songs and I'm also working on some covers. Probably going to be working on some commercial stuff. So all kinds of stuff with music. I'm so excited. Like, this is like my little childhood dream come true right now, is being able to create music and in so many different outlets. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing about YouTube and video is that, like, I've recorded music before, like in a studio situation, and I really like that, but I also like the video aspect of it. And there's something about the video complementing the sound and all of that coming together. And that to me is what gets me really excited. So I think that's why I'm getting so passionate about it right now, because I watch the video of me playing and I'm like, oh, I have ideas for what I could do. And it just, the possibilities are endless. So I'm excited to share all that with you guys and continue just on this journey that I'm on with, like, digging into my different passions. I have so many different passions: music, MMA, fitness, all kinds of stuff. So I'm excited. But that being said, I am going to wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and thank you. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, like, you're a real one. Because I've been talking for like 45 minutes now, and you're still here listening to me. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love you guys so much. And anytime you send me a message or a comment, just know that, like, that makes me so happy when you say something like, oh, I heard you talk about this on your podcast. Oh, I really liked your perspective on this. Oh, I really like your podcast. You're so talented at what you do. Things like that. Like, I get messages and it's just like guys hitting on me, and it's like, I just don't even read them half the time because I'm like, oh my God. But when people compliment what I'm doing, that brings me so much joy. It makes me so happy. So thank you guys for taking the time to send me a message or send me a comment and say, like, hey, I like this. I like what you're doing. Because that is what motivates me to keep going. I need that sometimes. Like, there are days where, like, I don't even want to turn my camera on. So getting messages like that, it helps encourage me and keeps me motivated, not only to keep doing this, but to keep getting better and better and better. And I promise you guys, I am going to keep leveling up. This is just this is the very beginning. Like, there is only up from here. So thank you guys for listening, and I will see you again next week. See you guys.